Welcome back to you and our audience. It's my honor and my pleasure to welcome Dr. Sara Rushinek, who is a professor at the University of Miami, to join us today. Dr. Rushinek, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Could you just spend 1 minute telling our audience about yourself, and then we'll plunge into the subject matter?
Yeah, sure. I'm a professor at the University of Miami. I wear a number of hats. I'm in the business school as a professor of business technology and health informatics. And I'm also part of the translational research group at the medical school at the University of Miami, helping a number of physicians, Ph.D s to bring their research into products, basically to be able to explain their research to consumers, to other educators, to the other populations at large.
Wonderful. I love that. So let's talk a little bit about types of analytics. You're going to help us walk through, right?
Okay, demystify, as we say.
Demystify, that's right. So as you know, you're living this, patient care organization leaders are really trying to move forward into more advanced forms of analytics, from purely descriptive to prescriptive and predictive analytics. First of all, what are the differences between those types of analytics?
Yeah, we have a lot of terms, notice, and we have to be educated into these terms. So think about it as a timeline. If I think about the past, I think about the present. What we want to do is describe what happened. So in healthcare, for instance, what were my health vitals in the past? What is my population vital in the past? And what is in the current? And basically descriptive statistics many times is to summarize, to aggregate that, and to present it to decision makers in a reasonable fashion that they can make decisions upon. Yeah. That's descriptive statistics. So past and present. Now, what's important, and we can see this in COVID, right, is not even what's in the past and in the present, but what's going to be in the future. So that we call predictive. Basically, think of it as forecasting. Basically, we're going to think about the probabilities of something going to happen. That is what we call predictive statistics. Of course, that is less accurate than just describing what is in the past and what is in the present, but we need to know that, and we hopefully can use the right techniques to be as accurate as possible. Then there's a third area, which is called prescriptive, just like when somebody gives you a prescription. So basically, it's the idea of recommendations, giving you insights. Not only am I going to do the forecast, but I'm also going to do, or the system is going to do, recommendations and insights. So what has traditionally been much easier to do is the descriptive end. Just tell me what has happened, or what is our current state.
Yeah. What are the biggest challenges to moving into predictive and prescriptive analytics that you're seeing? Where are patient care organization leaders struggling the most, Doctor?
There's so many areas to struggle with. First of all, think about the healthcare industry. And especially now with everything being digitized, before the healthcare industry even just had an issue of getting everything on paper, making it digitized. Now that we have everything digitized, what is the area? First of all, what data do we use? And then what also is very difficult is our predictive models. Think about it, is how accurate. Think about it even in terms of the stock market, right? I can tell you what Bitcoin did or what any other stock had done in the past. And then when I look in the past, I said, oh, I should have sold when it was, when it was down. I should have sold when it was high. I should have, bought when it was low. That's easy. But what is it going to be tomorrow? And it's the same thing in healthcare. And what are our models? So what needs to be done and what is difficult is not only doing the modeling, but then changing our models as we see we have errors, and we're going to, what do we want to do? Decrease our errors. We know we're not going to be 100% accurate, but what we want to do is decrease those errors. So what is difficult is, number one, is getting the modeling correct. or even getting the right models. And number two is how often we have to change in the way you can think about algorithms. How often do we need to change or tweak our algorithms? There's other issues of even what are we trying to forecast? Because there's so much data out there and so many silos and so many people in the organization that are responsible for making decisions on different aspects of the healthcare environment that you need to get that.
Absolutely.
Issues.
Oh, I absolutely agree, Dr. Rushinek. Now here's, before we can even get to all those things, we have the challenge of the who, which is getting data scientists, developing analysts. What the classic thing that's discussed over and over and over and over and over again in healthcare is, how do we get competent people who can do this for us and with us? Of course, with is important. I hear all these arguments on different sides. I've literally heard every version of this in the last few years, like you know, multiple versions. Would you weigh in, please, on, and I know it's not as simple as this binary, but I'm going to express it as a binary, and then you can weigh in at any level. Is it easier, quote, better, to get people with strong data analytics backgrounds who may not be from healthcare, like pulling them in from other industries, especially data scientists whom we lack in bulk? Or is it easier, quote unquote, and better, quote unquote, to get people, for example, case manager nurses are typical, from inside healthcare who may not have had any real background in intensive data analytics or data science, and then teaching them data? In other words, is it easier?
I understand. It's the question is, who are we going to train? Is it, and it works all the time in all healthcare matters. Some of it is why are systems failing? Think about that. And it's basically many times when you're seeing a system fail is they don't know what's happening on the ground. Computer scientists analyzes it and they say, well, they don't know how I work. Physicians have done that. There's some companies now, let me just give you an aside here. There's some companies, some in that I've worked with, for instance, what they did is they taught their physicians programming, Java programming, because they said it would be easier for me to teach a physician Java programming than a computer scientist to teach him 8 years of medicine. So something like that. So they work together in a team. So in this case with data analysts, it depends, I think. One is, what do you want them to do? What part of the problem you want? So if it's a simple problem, sometimes you may take someone in the healthcare environment that knows where are my bottlenecks, knows what questions I need to ask, knows my patient population, and there are now some systems, many of them that are pre-programmed. So you can see among the vendors, like if you think about Amazon or Microsoft or Google, what they're doing is they're even doing, you didn't even talk about that idea of machine learning. Have you heard that? And everybody's heard it. I'm not sure anyone understands it, but it's basically the computer basically has those algorithms and you just run it. You don't need to be the data analyst. It's almost like you don't have to be the coder. You know what you want and it will code in the background. So for simple types of solutions, that may be a better way to go.
And I also hear, what I also hear, Dr. Rushinek, is that organizations are coming from both ends at the same time, right? They're pairing people and saying, okay, now John comes in from another industry and we're going to teach him enough about what we're doing so that he can help us. And then Susie is the nurse case manager and we're going to teach her enough about data analytics so that John and Susie can work together.
To understand the meaning. Also, you need to have other people involved. Is who are reading the reports, who are making the decisions and saying, this is great, but you're not answering my question. It's completely accurate, right? They always have those jokes, right? About economists, about, I got a perfect solution, but it's not the right question, you know? So there, again, as anything else, there has to be teamwork and you have to be able to come together and come together in a way that it's not stopping you to do your own work. Because who wants to have more and more meetings?
Yeah.
Raise your hand, right? Nobody wants that. But if I can adequately define what the problem is, what is my hypothesis, right? How am I going to get better healthcare, not technology for technology's sake? But then I think what's missing is no one goes back and sees how well those predictions really worked.
Yeah, exactly.
So everybody's so involved in putting out something, putting out a solution, that there's not a development, retry, keep on refining in the process. I think that's what's missing now, because everybody knows what they need to do. They're not able possibly to do it well, and you can see that.
Right, and so you're talking about data analytics governance.
Part of it, yes.
Management, yeah, that's
yes.
one element.
That has to be, of course, that's a given, right?
Yeah.
That if I don't know what I'm going to be studying, if I don't know what questions I'm going to be asking, then it's irrelevant.
Right.
The whole
so if
process.
there's a single golden thing that you can say about data analytics governance, what might it be?
That we really need to think about what question we're asking. That I think in data governance, and I've worked with a number of people in data governance, it's so easy to take out the templates. It's so easy to mark off, yes, we have the right policies, we have the right governance, that no one, first of all, no one ever reads those policies, right? They sit up on some website somewhere, right? But someone copied it from another person. I hate to tell you all these things, but and it's like it's the last committee anybody wants to be on. It's like, I have to do it. So we're just going to go through the motions. But what is key here is if you flip the question and say, what is our real goal? What do we want to accomplish? What is the business decisions we want to answer? I think maybe that would be a better way to approach this than just say, oh, this is data governance, this is compliance. You know, let's do the mark off the check boxes.
Right, exactly. So how do you see this whole area evolving forward in the next few years? We have so many questions that we want answered. There's an absolute need. I know you know that. There's an absolute need, and particularly as organizations try to move forward in terms of clinical transformation, and related to that also alternative payment models like ACOs, bundled payments. They really need to understand what's going on inside their organizations and understand better. So how will this all evolve forward in the next few years, do you think?
You know, it'll be piecemeal. It'll be, you know, as you can see, step back, take a step forward. I see the trend being more models are going to be set already, that maybe we don't need as many data analysts on the beginning end, that there'll be models already set. But I think what you'll see, in order to get the best outcomes, you'll need people to look at revisions and how to fine tune it, how to tweak those models. I think that's what you'll see. Yeah. And another way in which I think it's going in demand are all these IoT devices, you know, the Internet of Things devices that we have. It's going to be demand also from the consumer, right? I have my Apple Watch, I have all my other demands. It's going to be, we're never going to go back, even though, you know, we're thinking about this COVID variant, that one. Healthcare has changed just like the workplace has changed, right? It's there. So what I think it's going to be is more on demand, what fits best. And it's going to be coming down from the consumers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think, Doctor, if I may say, I think as health plans and providers really do collaborate together, we're talking about health plan provider collaboration all the time, we will get some really good ideas and people involved.
No, I do. I think it will only get better, you know, that it will be more efficient, you know, satisfaction, engagement will be up. And when you think about healthcare, you also think about the consumer being more involved in their own healthcare. And you're thinking, but the family being more involved in their healthcare. And I think as you see, in the beginning, they used to say the older population, they're not tech savvy. Well, guess what? That those people that were born with this tech savvy, they're going to be old as well. So this is going to be, the home is going to be different in terms of monitoring. So I think that telehealth is going to be changing quite a bit, where then you can actually get updates of not only what is my status, continuous status, it's going to be more accurate because it's not that one time that you do once a year. Mark, you go in and get your blood work done. This will be a continuous basis, and it will be able to inform you now, right? Rather than a year from now. And if you missed your appointment and you didn't go for 2 years, that's not going to be an issue.
Yeah, exactly. So if you could, Doctor, leave us with one or maybe two pieces of advice. Our audience, especially healthcare IT leaders in our audience, they're all, this is all messy, right? They're all struggling for it in their own ways,
Right.
but maybe just one or two pieces of advice for them as they move forward on this journey.
I think this has to be a team approach.
Yeah.
That you really need people down at the ground floor that actually can see where are the bottlenecks. You also need to work with the decision makers to see what questions they want to answer. Yeah. So I think that is an area, and not just to always, I think about what is your end goal? What questions are you trying to answer? Yeah. I think is an issue. And everybody knows it's not just technology for technology's sakes. We want, of course, it's easy slogan to say we want better outcomes, but actually try to get it more well-defined. I think in the beginning, your question has to be well-defined before you can find an answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything you said, Dr. Rushinek. And I think, yes, it's going to be a little bit messy, but I also agree specifically with one point you made. More and more people are coming into the system and into these processes who are more tech savvy, for one, and who are more data savvy. So over time, this will become easier. And I also think that more models are being built that are going to be templates for people too.
Yeah, yes, and I agree. I really see it so well. Think about the physicians even coming into market. It used to be a big deal, right, to get the physicians to use EHR, to use the computers. Everyone from the ground up are demanding that it be like any other online experience, on-demand experience. Yeah, so
and this is going to change. Absolutely, and the physicians coming out of medical school and residency now, they're 29 years old. They grew up with technology. Yeah,
they don't know anything else.
Right. So it's different from, and I don't want it to be ageist because there are some physicians who are 65 who are amazing.
But it's the entire environment. Right. It is. And you can see there's some beauty. I also want to leave it, that we think about even the COVID. There's been, if we want to look at that glass half full, you can see how we've been able to adapt, and how we can adapt so quickly is because of technology, that we're using the right forecasting techniques. We're being able to, that's going to basically accelerate a lot of our progress.
Yeah, it absolutely will. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Rushinek.
I'm sorry we could have done this for another 10 hours.
We could.
Maybe we'll have part 2 coming up soon.
Yes, and we will absolutely have you back. Yes. And we'll continue to talk about this.
Yeah, and maybe what we can do later on as a suggestion is maybe concentrate on one of those issues, because when we have these broad conversations, everybody basically can agree, right? The devil is in the detail.
It is. There are a lot of little devils.
It's been my pleasure, and thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rushinek, and thank you to you and our audience for participating. This concludes this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.